Good morning, sociology students. Happy Wednesday. Today, day 4 of content for Unit 3 Deviance, we will cover 3 theories: the cultural transmission theory, control theory, and conflict theory. So, what is the cultural transmission theory? Cultural transmission theory is that deviance is primarily transmitted through your cultural environment. Therefore, the name cultural transmission theory. So, an individual is socialized into deviant behavior rather than into socially acceptable behavior. A great example of this would be a young kid who maybe is 10, 11 years old, and he is surrounded by either older siblings or parents or step parents who are constantly smoking and drinking in the house. That then deviance might be transmitted through his cultural environment, and maybe him or her, as in that image above, would start those deviant acts at a younger age, right? So you're socialized into the deviant behavior rather than into socially acceptable behavior. So, like we said in the previous slide, this deviance is transmitted through the cultural environment. So it is learned or nurtured. We've talked about the difference between nature and nurture a lot this trimester, but this is learned or nurtured. There are 5 key factors when we talk about the cultural transmission theory. The first is intensity of conflict. The second is age. The third is frequency of contact. The fourth is duration of contact. And then the fifth is number of contacts. We'll go through each of those individually. So, first, intensity of conflict. Close relationships have more influence. Okay, so even in your own lives, right? When you think of who you are very close with right now, right? Friends, teammates, people who share the same extracurricular activities as you, maybe siblings, cousins that are your age, maybe your parents, right? But those close relationships you have, like especially your peers at school, have a very heavy influence on you. It's not always the case, but chances are, if you have a group of friends that drink, chances are you probably have tried it, right? Because that close relationship has heavy influence on you, according to the cultural transmission theory. That also can be true for good things as well. But for the sake of talking about deviance, those are the examples we'll discuss. The second is age. Okay, so the younger you are, the more open you are to influence, right? So if you are exposed to deviant acts at a younger age, the more open you are and probably more likely you are to commit said deviant act. The third, frequency of contact. The more time spent with deviance, the more likely you are to be influenced by it, right? Like maybe you have one cousin that you see twice a year for family get-togethers that's just off his rockers or off her rockers and not a good influence on you, but you only see them twice a year. So that's not saying that you won't commit deviant acts when you're with said cousin, but according to the cultural transmission theory, frequency of contact is very important, how often you spend time with those deviants. The fourth is duration of contact. Okay? Long-term relationships have more influence, whether that's friends of years and years, teammates, a significant other, of course, siblings or parents. That duration of contact in long-term relationships have a big impact. All right. And then number of contacts. Okay? The more people you know who display a behavior, the more likely they are to influence you. So, number of contacts, right? Think about it. How many of you, when you were in elementary school or middle school, participated in the DARE program, right? Resisting drugs and violence. This is trying to prevent, this is a perfect example of trying to prevent the cultural transmissions of deviance, drugs and alcohol behavior young, right? So even though it might have been you, some of your classmates may have been exposed heavily to drugs and alcohol at, that young age of 5th or 6th grade. Whenever you go through the program, the design of the program is to hopefully prevent this cultural transmission of deviant behavior. All right. Shifting gears here a little bit, please let me know if you have any questions. Shoot me an email on the cultural transmission theory. You'll be working with it throughout your activity today. Next is the control theory. So the control theory and conflict theory we will discuss in a shorter manner. The control theory of deviance is that individuals who have weak ties to the community are likely to commit deviant acts. Okay? Individuals who have weak ties to the community are likely to commit deviant acts. We'll look at 4 main ideas with the control theory: attachment, opportunity, involvement, and belief. That's why you constantly hear teachers and advisors and coaches and parents and grandparents encouraging K through 12 students, right, to get involved, right? Whether it is music or arts or debate or student council or sports, just to get involved in the community, because it's proven, right, in sociology and psychology that if you have weak ties to the community, you're more likely to commit deviant acts versus if you're heavily involved. Chances are you're focusing your energy and passion on whatever it is that you're involved with. Okay, lastly, the conflict theory. Conflict theory. We'll talk a little bit more about Karl Marx next week, but we're going to look at it in the lens of deviance. So deviance is a result of a class struggle. Okay, that deviance is a result of a class struggle. You can see the images over there to the left between the upper class and the lower class. The upper class, what would be some reasons upper class commit deviant acts? To maintain power, right? We see it time and time again. It's to maintain the power that they have. The lower class, on the other hand, the lower class commits deviant acts to obtain power and because of feeling powerless. Okay, so the lower class is seeking for power. The upper class commits these deviant acts to simply maintain. And that's what we have here for day 4: conflict, control, and cultural transmission theories.